Movie Wars.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Movie Wars podcast. What's going on, fellas?
What's up?
What's up?
Kyle here.
I'm Seth.
And I'm Drew.
This is a weird day for me. It's weird because, A, someone wanted to do more work on the podcast, which is crazy.
So you know it wasn't me.
Yeah, it wasn't true.
Right away.
So what's cool is Seth and Drew and I have a movie file, and it's like all the movies we want to cover. It was funny, like
we're the only ones who've contributed to this. By the way,
you have a column on there.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I'll get to
Just
it.
throw some shit in there.
Yeah, if you ever decide to toss a movie on there,
Yeah.
which we've covered a lot of them. Yeah. And I was surprised because I opened it the next morning and Seth had added like 100 movies. Like, that's what I'm talking about. And then you texted me and said, hey, I really want to cover Upgrade. And you're like, we decided to do it. You're like, don't do any research. And I was like, so I may look like I don't know what to do with my hands during this podcast, but why don't you take it away, man? We're doing Upgrade.
Yeah, so to intro, this was my number one movie of 2018 when it came out. It tied for first place for me with Bo Burnham's 8th Grade. So 2 grade movies. Yeah.
Those
Vastly
are very
different movies, but my God, they both impressed me in such different ways. We're going to go in the background of Upgrade for a second. It was written and directed by Leigh Whannell, an Australian writer-director. You might know him. He wrote the first 3 Saw movies and played Adam in the first Saw movies, the guy in the room with Cary Elwes. He also wrote the Insidious franchise and directed Insidious 3. That was his directorial debut. But he's also acted in everything from The Matrix Reloaded to Aquaman as well. So the dude has had his fingers in so many different aspects of the industry. He had this idea, and this was even before Elon Musk had announced that he was going to be doing Neuralink, but he had this idea of a man who'd been paralyzed and had some sort of chip reconnect his spine back together so he would be able to move again. And that's where this whole situation was birthed from, was this idea that he had, like, I don't know, probably 5 years before they even really got rolling with the movie. They shot the whole thing in Melbourne, Australia. So every big wide shot you're seeing, even if there's stuff digitally added to it, that's all parts of Melbourne that they were shooting in. He purposefully wanted to be set in a near and recognizable future, something that would be not too far, maybe 20, 30 years ahead of where we are now, but something that we would still be able to connect to, which I think, as you were talking about before we started the podcast, that it kind of has that 80s feel, because like you watch something like The Predator or like Terminator, and it obviously is set in a modern time, but it's that sci-fi that we can all still connect and relate to.
Almost like that transition from like a non-technological society to a society that's fixing to fully depend on it. Like that middle ground, yeah.
And I feel like every movie like that is always like self-driving cars.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
Which obviously is a part of this movie, and I'll get, because there's something cool about the cars that I'll get to in a little bit.
Sweet.
But yeah, that to him, he was like, I didn't want this to look like Blade Runner. I didn't want this to be in such a far distant future that we had no connection to it, because hearing about a guy getting a chip put in his neck to put his body back together wouldn't be so cool. It wouldn't be a novel idea in that kind of world. It would be pretty like, no, that's a thing, like, obviously. So he thought this would be more remarkable set in that kind of world. So they're going through production. He was talking to a lot of different companies and ended up setting with Blumhouse, who did Get Out and a lot of the Jordan Peele movies. And he went with them because he loves what they're doing with horror specifically. Even though I don't think anyone really considers this movie to be horror, they have a much more grounded look on filmmaking and producing. So that's why he ended up going with him. As I'm sure we all recognize, the stunts and the fight was a very important part of this movie. And when he was talking to the stunt coordinator, he said he wanted him to throw everything he knew about stunt coordination and stunt choreography just out the window and start completely from scratch, because he wanted that robotic, weird nature to those fight scenes. He didn't want it to feel like anything that we were familiar with. And apparently he actually drew a lot of inspiration from old kung fu movies to kind of get the visual style of how the fight scenes were both going to be filmed and choreographed. He mentioned Ong Kek and The Raid as 2 movies that he was incredibly inspired by, and now movies that I need to go see. I've never seen either of these movies before. So I really need to know. But that's where the cinematography of keeping the action front and center. If you notice during the fight scenes, there's almost like there's the cuts are only there when they have to be, as opposed to it taking 7 shots for Liam Neeson to jump over a fence. There's literally it's such long shots when it comes to how they shot the fight choreography in the film. Basically, he didn't want you to ever get confused. He didn't want you to ever lose what was going on in the fight. One more thing about the director, he absolutely loved practical effects. In fact, there's a lot more practical effects than you would think of in this movie, specifically when it came to the deaths. What he describes as the Pez dispenser knife kill, which is one of my favorite kills in all of cinema history. Like, that was just utterly brutal.
So brutal.
That was a prosthetic head. Like, that was done practically.
I love that.
2, and they had 2 chances to get it right. Otherwise, they were fucked.
And it trumped the CGI when we talked about in The
Absolutely.
Crow.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That one looks so dumb now compared to this one.
It was insane. The other one, when he blew the guy's head off with the shotgun in his arm, that was also completely practical effects.
Yeah. And I mean, when you see practical effects like that, you can see why people like him like prefer it over. I mean, there's just something practical looks more realistic, and and when we're watching a movie, we're kind of wanting to be, and we want it to be realistic. We want it to be. I mean, you get in some movies. I mean, you know, you think about any superhero or futuristic movies.
Yeah.
Some things you need CGI. Sometimes you need special effects.
Absolutely,
But,
and there's plenty in this movie.
Yeah.
But when you get those real, I mean, it's like a real steak versus a McRib.
It's
You're
impactful.
You're just like, this is
That's
what
really,
I came for.
It's really the whole crux of why Friday the 13th is good. The story's not great.
Yeah.
The
At
acting's
all.
not great,
At
but the
all.
effects
Yeah.
are so... Tom Savini is so top-notch.
That last 30 minutes is the only thing that saved that movie.
Yeah.
So, no, 100% agree.
Real quick, do you think this AC is a problem?
It was all throughout the last one, so...
Cool. I didn't even notice it just now.
Once you put the de-reverb effect, it'll go away.
Cool. I need to add it to my chain.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry about that.
No, all good. That was your cue for cutting.
I love it.
Our lead actor was Logan Marshall Green. He had done a couple of things, but was still and still today is a pretty relatively unknown actor. He auditioned for the part. He found out about it and immediately contacted Leigh and was like, I have to be in this movie. I absolutely love the concept. And so when they cast him, it was like a month between casting and when he showed up for rehearsals. He spent that entire month sending Leigh videos of him learning how to do the walk, where his face and head was doing something completely different from the rest of his body. He approached all the fights as like a dance. He really took the kind of the ballroom dancer or ballet dancer perspective as far as choreographing the fights, because of the way a computer would have everything so particularly set as far as the movements he made. Also, he did 95% of his own stunts in the movie.
Wow.
Like, literally, the main stunt coordinator said he kind of did nothing on set because he never had to step in and be the stunt guy.
I love that.
Yeah. So
I hope that guy still got paid to just kind of hang out. What a good week or month.
Yeah.
Or
That's
whatever.
another 80s thing, man. I mean, it's Keanu and Sly, those guys loved doing their own stunts.
Oh, yeah. Well, something I've also realized, so between the original Crow, American Psycho last week, and this movie, we're now talking about 3 movies we've watched where the lead actor was 150% into what was going on.
Yeah.
He was so sold on the idea that he was just like, whatever you're going to pay me, you're going to pay me. I'm just going to be there, and I'm going to put all of myself into making sure this is the best thing it can be.
And that makes a difference in the movies. You can see when the lead star is really
shit.
Gives a shit, or is working well with the director, or is like, there's like,
And his biggest credit to date was Prometheus, right? That was kind of the one where people would recognize him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a couple others, but even in all of those, he was just kind of a background character. Like, he had never been the full brute force of a movie like he was in this.
Yeah.
This was a huge chance for him to really stretch his acting chops.
Yeah.
In the comment or in the behind the scenes, they talked to the producer Kylie Dufresne, and she said it was shot in 6 weeks, and the budget was under $5 million.
Wow.
For comparison, The Crow Wicked Prayer was an $8 to $10 million budget.
That's hilarious.
This was made for half the amount of money
Yeah.
that The Crow Wicked Prayer was made for.
And you can tell
Unbelievable.
that movie was like, is anything going to ever be as good?
Half of that
as
was spent on
Tara Reid.
Hopper's fur coat.
Yeah. And Tara Reid's tits.
Yeah.
Worth it. Worth it.
Oh my God.
It's a nice coat.
Yeah. But yeah, literally it was just, they knew that they were going to be able to have a North American opening because they were working with Blumhouse, so they knew they could get away with a lower budget for the higher return. So yeah, just even it still just blows my mind. $5 million is absolutely nothing. That's not even considered a low budget film. That is considered a micro budget film.
Yeah.
In today's industry. So what they were able to achieve, especially with the practical effects, just absolutely blew my mind.
That's wild.
Oh
Very
my God.
cool.
I love
Final little bits about the background of it. So the stunt cinematographer's name is Stefan Duccio. I should have looked into what other films he's done. Feel free. But he specifically wanted to lean into the non-realism of the lighting, kind of lean into that idea of it is a slightly futuristic city, so not everything is going to be as natural as it could be. So you'll notice in scenes like when he's fighting the final henchman, you have these like blue and green lights outside the windows, and he really, because of things like that, wanted to lean into kind of that neon noir kind of weird, unnatural lighting. They also, this was one of my favorite just random filmmaking tidbits. They shot on antique anamorphic lenses from the 70s.
Wow.
Like they were built for 70s film cameras, and they bought them used vintage because they wanted the kind of visual look of the film to be very ambiguous as to when it was made.
That's wild.
Okay. Yeah.
So just as a
I love that.
filmmaker,
That's
it's
cool.
little
Yeah.
things like that that just blow my mind when they figure out ways to bring old school tricks into a very new looking movie.
That's incredible.
Finally, we have the fight choreographer, Chris Weir. He was presented with the script, and he knew he had to use a fighting style that he'd never seen before, and so he went with the idea that the computer would be so much more efficient with minimal movement. So he combined multiple fighting styles to get where they ended up. The entire movie was choreographed in a week and rehearsed for 2 weeks, and he designed all the fights around the scale and the budget, and once again, everything was done practically.
Wow, they did a lot with minimal.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a
That's
true
impressive, yeah.
this is a true example of everybody just coming together because the idea for the project was so cool, honestly. Like this is a world I've never really seen before in a sci-fi film. It was and I know the kind of plot structure of it is very borrowed. It is technically just a revenge film at its, most simple core. But I think he did a lot to kind of play around with what the normal tropes of a revenge film would look like.
And I loved that. I love that they went out of their way to make it futuristic, but not too futuristic, because that added to the storyline. Because here today in 2024, when you're, watching this about this chip that can, completely, AI completely takes over and does everything. Like, it's a conceivable plot for a future thing that could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of jumps to get there in technology, but like just in the days of where we have, AI doing our graphic designing and all that stuff, it's like you could see, with prosthetic limbs, it's like, well, I could see this actually being a thing,
Absolutely.
And so, and that did make a plot kind of appealing, because you were like, it's fiction, but it's sci-fi, but it's also a little realistic,
Well, ways that they did that, some of the technology in the movies actually exists in real life. The arm that would like give him the drink and give him the medicine and everything, that was actually donated to them from a Canadian research lab who had, or I guess a robotics company that made these arms. And that's an actual real thing that people with disabilities are using today.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So,
incredible.
Very intentional melding of futuristic and current technology. So that's all I got for the background.
Wow. Everything
Yeah.
you said just made me really angry, not about this movie, but it makes me angry when you look at the budgets that some of these reboots and remakes are getting,
Yeah.
and some of these new movies, and like the fact that they can accomplish that. And we just covered American Psycho last week. That was $6 million. Like, like, what are they doing with these larger budgets?
And then you have bigger movies with this huge astronomical budgets, and then you see what comes out of it, and you're like, where did you spend all that money? Because it wasn't in the things that I'm looking at, you know?
Exactly.
But
I guess animation has gotten expensive. Like weirdly, sometimes it's cheaper to go the practical route, but you're risking a lot more when you're going with practical effects.
But I also think it's something that's kind of cool about all that is because you were talking about how this is a movie of so many different people coming together and making a good product with not a ton of resources.
Yeah.
But you have directors that care. You have lead actors that are going to do the extra steps. You have the smart people figuring out how we're going to make believable fight scenes with not a lot of, money or prep time, know?
Or shooting time. It was shot in 6 weeks, a month and a half is all it took for them to shoot this movie.
And that's kind of like a word and inspiration to creatives and like your role, like that whole quote, like money isn't everything. Like your role as a person on the project, you can do things that people can't pay for.
Yeah. Now, some ways they were able to save on money. They were actually able to build a lot of the same sets in one building. They actually ended up using a shut down school that was going to be torn down eventually. And so they had free reign to turn any of those rooms into what they want. So that bar that he goes to, the bone room, that was a room inside of the school that they just sat there and redressed.
Wow.
That was the same building as that hallway when he's going into the hacker's apartment. That the apartment and that hallway is also in the same school, where he also ends up jumping down the stairs later on. Like all of that was filmed all in the same building, just because they had one building with a lot of rooms.
Yeah,
so they really took everything that they could, and they were like, "How are we going to maximize this money that we're spending?" So they built 8 sets in one building.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
you got to do what you got to do on these small budgets, and it always makes a better product.
Yeah. So yeah, that's again, these are just a lot of the reasons why this was my number one movie, because there's of that year, because there's so many things that they had no money for that just went right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you suggested it, because it was I was trying to, I think I texted you guys this. I was trying to think about how this slid past my radar.
Yeah.
2018 was like babies.
Right.
Just little
That's
babies.
wow. Yeah.
I only have one kid in diapers now, but at the time I had multiple.
Yeah.
I have 4 kids now. And I was like, I missed a lot of things in 2018.
You're like, I need one of those upgrades to take care of these babies.
Yeah. In fact, I left a piece of me back there in 2018. It was a war zone. But I watched this and was immediately, what I was taken back by was, everyone knows that like my favorite genre is this, what I call pop sci-fi, but it's really this action horror sci-fi, which includes Terminator, Predator, a lot of the Sly, movies, and some of the Keanu stuff, like just that genre that was like, it wasn't inaccessible.
Yeah.
Which a lot of hardcore sci-fi can be inaccessible to a majority of people. So when you meld action, James Cameron, stuff based on Philip K. Dick, that's kind of my favorite. It's my vein. And this instantly took me there. The visuals. And like I said earlier, like the thing that this movie does well in the time zone, that it's actually capturing where we are now. It's kind of crazy. The week I watched this, Tesla had just announced the Robotaxi.
Yep.
Yeah.
The first vehicle that's not going to be produced with a steering wheel or pedals.
Yeah.
And
That freaks
then
me out.
that car, that's my dream car, to never drive again.
I would love that, but also like I kind of feel like Will Smith in iRobot, who's like, I don't trust all that technology.
Fun little tidbit: the year this came out, I was actually hired to go film at a transit conference over at the Opry Mill or Opryland Hotel. And one of those days, I got to spend 6 straight hours on a fully autonomous bus.
Wow.
Because we were filming interviews for people involved in the tech companies who created the bus. So I literally, before anyone really even knew autonomous cars were a thing, I had spent an entire day just sitting, watching this autonomous car hit every single point in the parking lot it was supposed to every single time.
And you survived.
Survived. Yeah. We would have people walk out in front of it, and it would just stop.
Did you see Upgrade before or after that?
After.
Thank God after. I was like, I would not, if I just saw Upgrade the night before and like, yeah, get on this autonomous bus, I'd be like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a few months later, but yeah.
Yeah, the thing that it was really resonant, and I have a category for this later, but this idea of like, the reason I loved like not only watching films based on Philip K. Dick, like Blade Runner's based on do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Is that what's it called? Yeah. I always mix up the title. The Android, it's a weird title.
That's exactly what it's called. Good job.
His titles were always really long. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And then
don't worry, they'll correct you in the comments.
Oh yeah,
the Deftones.
Yeah.
Deftones. Total Recall was based on we'll remember it for you, Wholesale, which was a short story. And what he captured so well, and which is crazy to think that like when he wrote Minority Report, I think it was either in 58 or 62, is between 58 and 65. Think about that. Think about what he was predicting.
Yeah.
And so much of what he thinks about and wrote about was about this bridge between where humanity starts to veer into a completely technologically enabled society and the pain that would bring.
Yeah.
And this movie instantly tapped into that vein. I would be very surprised if someone on set or someone making the film was not reading Philip K. Dick or watching Total Recall or something, because it really...
I mean, just knowing the depth of Leigh Whannell's writing, I guarantee you he was at least inspired by things that were inspired by it, if he wasn't directly inspired by them.
Yeah, I loved it. It definitely transported me back there, so I loved it for that reason. So it was a lot of fun. I'm glad you suggested it.
Somebody didn't like it that much.
Okay,
somebody, somebody
Okay.
named who lives their life a quarter mile at a time.
Okay. I love it more when I don't even have to use my catchphrase. It's just said. Okay, I will say I loved what you just shared, and it makes me have a bigger appreciation for the movie. That part, like. When I watched it, a couple things. One, like going into it, people said like, and then I saw exactly what they meant. They're like, oh, it's basically the storyline of Venom. And that, as soon as I got like within the first fight scene where he gives permission to take over, I was like, oh, I see what they're saying now. Like, and so like what was kind of entertaining to me was it was like the same plot line of Venom. And I think both movies came out in 2018. Instead of an alien symbiote, you had a technological piece controlling it, but still talking to you the way Venom would talk to Tom Hardy. And the fact that this actor has a striking resemblance to Tom Hardy.
He looks so much like Tom Hardy.
Discount store Tom Hardy.
I felt like I was watching Kmart Venom. Is what I felt like. I was like, and it was the overall, the plot was like okay to me. I didn't find myself particularly drawn to any of the characters. I didn't find myself like just at the edge of my seat with the plot. It was like an okay movie. I will say all of that did change at the very end. Yeah. Because what I like movies, so when again, I don't I say this plenty of times in this podcast. I'm not a guy that knows things. I don't care. I watch movies to enjoy. Yeah. Do I enjoy the storyline?
Well, one of us actually enjoyed Wicked Prince.
Yeah, is it fun? Yeah. So absolutely. So like, there's do you have a good time watching the movie? And then if for the bad movies, sometimes like, yeah, it was fun to watch. Or like if it's a good storyline. So that's another factor for me for a good movie is, did it tell, like, we just reviewed American Psycho. That one makes you think well after watching the movie. To me, that makes it a good movie. What made this a good movie to me, where I would categorize as like, it was fine, because I didn't love it the whole time, but I'd still say it's a good movie because the end ended in a way that we don't do that often, which is, for all practical purposes, the bad guy won. Yeah. There was like, I had to think once the movie ended, did I just see that? Did I understand what just happened? And I replayed it in my head a couple times. Like, no, I did. Yeah. And that was highly interesting to me that they put, I mean, like, it was so unsatisfying the way it ended, but in a good way, in like a fun way.
Yeah. You're pissed, but you're like excited that you're pissed because it's actually something unique that's happening.
Yeah, and the shit's gonna go down.
Yeah, it made you feel something. Like, I hate that that's how it ended, but that was a good ending. Yeah. That is a way that storyline could have ended.
He also has no intention of making a sequel at the moment, so
I like that.
I don't think it needs a sequel. I don't think we need a more upgraded.
It would be cool to see more of that world, in my opinion, but I don't think we would need a direct sequel to find out what happened to him.
Maybe a prequel where it tells the story of what happened to either the main villain, like the younger guy who like the Elon Musk type person, or even the other dude who like seemed to have some technological advances.
So the director talks quite a bit about that whole thing, because he actually talked about how that top henchman guy, he based the look of him on like your average militia kind of enthusiast in this country. Like, dresses a little nice, but there's something a little off about him. And he said the reason he did that is because the group that he's with, which is a very multicultural group visually, they're all the racist ones because they all have technological upgrades. They all have those guns in their arms. He has the thing in his eye where he has X-ray vision and he can zoom into things. Like that becomes the new social racism is, oh, you don't have any implants, you don't have any upgrades done, well then you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, that definitely that would be very fascinating to kind of see that transition for some of those guys.
It'd be an
from
interesting
normal
world to build
upgrade.
a little bit. I will say my favorite parts of the movie were the ending. I
Yeah.
thought that was a shocking ending. It was good. And then the point kind of where he tortures the guy to like where he's
With the knife?
yeah, where,
Yeah.
like and it's like where he gives, but then he's like, we have to go, you have to go find the hacker to get me out of this.
Yeah.
Like that part was like an interesting part of the storyline.
Yeah.
The rest of it was a little bit rinse and repeat as far as those kind of movies to me.
Sure. I will say that I think the thing that blew my mind and everybody's mind was that OG fight scene where he first gives himself over to Stan.
Yeah, that was a good scene. It really had Matrix vibes
Yeah.
to me, which you said he was the director of, or no,
he was an actor in Matrix Resurrection. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll get into the cool technical aspects of that in the randos. But yeah, that was when they premiered, because it won the Audience Choice Award at South by Southwest, and all the reviews that came out after that were just praising that fight scene.
Have you been practicing saying rando? Are you going to be ready when
We're not there yet, though.
I know we're not, but when that moment comes,
I have.
Did you look in the mirror?
Oh yeah.
Did you get deep in your chest?
Did you look deep within?
Did you look deep within?
And then I practiced the randos.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Speaking of upgrade, do your friends need an upgrade to their podcast listening experience? Oh, I know what you're saying to yourself. I've got friends that they listen to the shittiest podcast on the planet. They listen to the news, politics. They listen to all kinds of bad shit, but they don't listen to Movie Wars. Your friend is lost. Your friend is behind. There is a social form of racism that we're going to talk about today, and that form is them not listening to Movie Wars.
Yes.
You don't want your friend to be lesser. You don't want them to be down on the totem pole. You want them listening to Movie Wars. So if you want to upgrade their life, upgrade their existence, make them more likable, more dates, more money, more everything, send them Movie Wars.
Don't be racist and watch 3 white guys review movies.
I'm Filipino, but I look very white.
Maybe upgrade yourself as a friend and recommend them Movie Wars. I think that's a good friend move.
Do a little self-upgrading.
Yeah.
Yeah, find your truth, as they say it, the kids. But whatever that
I'm going to
means.
tell you your truth, which is
send your stupid friends Movie Wars. All right. Love you.
And the Deftones.
And the Deftones. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check Instagram. All right, the questions. Here we go. So, let me get this straight.
Yeah. Talk to me.
Fisk.
Start.
Again, I like this movie a lot.
Yeah.
But something bothers me here. Fisk is fully upgraded, right?
Yeah.
He's got the eye thing, the breath thing, the gun.
Yep.
Sticking with the perv stash, though.
Yeah.
Fully upgraded, keeping the perv stash. Explain this to me.
We had to bring something from the 80s into a movie that was a tribute to the 80s.
It is true. It is true. If I'm going to brag on this for being a great testament to the 80s, I can't criticize it. That definitely was...
just makes him look more menacing.
Well, yeah, it looked like Bennett from Commando.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely had that, played by the great Vernon Wells.
But it made you feel a little off, right?
It was a little off.
That's the point.
Yeah.
That was the whole, like, literally everything down to his hairstyle. That was the design of the director. He wanted him to look that way just to be a little off-putting.
Yeah.
Or what if he just found the perfect actor who looked off-putting, and instead of saying, that's why we want you, it's like, no, I see something in you. I see something on you. The mustache, really. That's what I see on you.
I want that caterpillar that's on your face.
Yeah, it's a mustache that it's not a Hitler stash, but it's also it hasn't covered enough ground necessarily. I always get worried when it doesn't hit the corner of the lip. And granted, this is all I can grow. I haven't shaved in 2 weeks. This is all I have. I'm not like I don't have a beard like you. But when it doesn't quite get here, I get a little weird. I get a little worried, a little weary.
It's not world dictatorship.
No.
Yet.
Yeah. So, but you're saying with that fact about the clothing, like, so that's why he's wearing he's like wearing nice polos.
Why he's wearing a polo? That's why he has the tactical vest or belt, I should say, and the the specific like khaki slacks that he was wearing, like in the combat boots. Like he's like your ex-military kind of guy. He has the training. He knows how to be ready for situations, but he's also trying to blend into a normal crowd.
Or he's like the Southern guy that has very strong opinions about gun control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, come and take him.
Yeah. Confiscate this. It's in my arm.
Take my arm.
That actually leads to my next question. All these upgrades, and again, I know you love this movie. I love this movie. I don't want you to think I'm shitting on it.
No.
The eye upgrade's awesome. The breath thing, that's cool.
Yeah.
But do you feel like it's a little weird to put the gun in the arm? It's like that like we're not only sticking with an ancient technology, but we're going to stick the ancient maybe that was the first version.
Granted, though, this is only 30 years away from now.
Yeah.
Like, it's not supposed to be that far in the future where we have, like, laser weapons.
Maybe that was the first thing they did was we're going to put guns in.
Yeah.
We're going to start with some guns, and then we'll give you some breath.
Clearly taking some inspiration from Assassin's Creed.
Yes.
Like, clearly that's a good way to hide it. You get to keep it underneath your coat. No one's going to see it. You never look like you're packing. And then when you need to use it, you just cock it and you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Also, it's more menacing. If you need to threaten someone but not kill them, what are you going to do? Show them your eye and your breath? Or are you going to pull out a gun from your arm?
Well, the breath did kill the guy.
I mean, yeah, but like, before I kill you, if I want to threaten you to give me information, what am I going to do? Like, don't make me breathe on you.
Yeah. Also, how terrifying would it be for a guy to grab you by the throat and then just stick his wrist in your face, and that's when you see the barrel of a gun?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think they get any powder burns or anything on the flesh around the gun?
Probably.
I'm really interested in the logistics of this arm gun.
Yeah. Leigh Whannell, if you watch this, let us know. We'd love to interview you and ask you about the random facts about your little world you created.
Yeah. And now one thing I do appreciate, even though I'm kind of like making fun of it, I do like that they went full circle. You reload the arm.
Yeah,
that was actually a cool touch.
That was a nice touch.
That fun little tidbit about that. The way he did that was he had one shell and he did the magician trick of putting it out, and then when he looked like he was sliding in, he was really putting it back in his hand.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's
it looked
cool.
like he had 4 bullets in his hand, but no, it was just one that he kept using to reload.
I love the
Movie
lower the
magic
budget, the
and
better.
real magic.
Yes. Like I said, there's just, for me, it was all the little things that made this movie so incredible.
Yeah, and considering what you talked about, the budget and like the limited resources, like they really knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
Are you ready to say it?
Is it time?
Are you ready to say it?
Randos.
Well done.
Okay.
Well done, sir.
Thank you.
This is a big moment in Movie Wars
What,
history.
talk about a Movie Wars upgrade, am I right?
Oh.
That was mean.
So 2 weeks ago, I went off on a little rant about opening credits in modern movies.
Yeah.
Because I absolutely normally abhor them. American Psycho gets a pass for me because it was pre-2005. That was still the style of movie making, and they made it interesting. So, yeah, it was fine with me. However, this is the only movie in existence as of the time it was made, and I think the commentary was 2023, so it might have been same last year. It's the only movie where the opening credits are spoken and not shown on screen in any way.
Really?
Yeah, because at the very beginning they have that robot voice, which also, fun fact, that was the voice of the car, the self-driving car later on. But that was the first time, and possibly the only time still, that all the opening credits were not shown on screen and were just audio.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not even notice.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go back and rewatch that just to see what it's like, because I didn't pick up on it one bit.
Yeah, it's just real quick, and you kind of don't really think about it, but yeah, it's like a computer voice. It's just like so-and-so presents, Blumhouse Productions, upgrade, and then that's how the movie starts.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense why I missed it. I was thinking there was a computer voice as the opening scene was going on, listing all the names of the people in it. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I would have remembered that.
No.
But
yeah, so
That's amazing.
little tidbit there. This is just a stupid one for me, so don't even feel free to respond. But the gun used to paralyze Joel was actually a duck hunt gun painted gray.
Really? From the Nintendo game?
An OG Nintendo duck hunt gun that they cut the cable off of and painted gray.
I think I might have had a thought about that when I saw that, because I think it made me think of like I didn't identify Duck Hunt, but I was identifying like old school Nintendo.
Yeah, so that was just a little fun one for me. The director, Leigh Whannell, was originally involved with other production companies that actually wanted to go with a much higher budget. I think the highest budget he was quoted was like $40 million. So he could have gone that direction, but as that was going on, he thought it was taking way too long for them to get their shit together. None of the bigger companies could decide on where it would be filmed or let him like how much control he would have based on how much money they gave him. So he ended up just going with Blumhouse because, like I was saying earlier, he wanted to have this big concept, but specifically, purposefully low budget project. When he landed with them, he felt they took better risks with the horror genre. I haven't actually seen any of the Jordan Peele movies, but every person I've talked to has said that they take everything we know about horror and just turn it into a weird thing that you haven't seen before. So he loved the way that they did that, and so that's why he wanted to go with them. I think it definitely adds to the indie film without feeling unrealistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And their reputation since 2018 has grown tremendously. Like, I know people like we have a comedian. I won't say her name here, but we have a comedian friend that's like obsessed with those films.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like they went from being kind of like an indie thing to like having a lot of recognition.
Yeah,
So.
but they still stick with low budgets on purpose because for them, it's kind of like we were saying. It's like you don't want to get too bogged down in spending all this money on digital effects companies. You want to keep it in these containable universes where, yeah, they're these huge concepts, but you're not going so far out the audiences disconnect.
Right.
So
Because you still want your people to relate to this overall story.
exactly.
Right.
So I think that
amazing.
was really cool that he very purposefully chose a budget basically 10 times less than what he was offered to make this movie. So
I love that.
The futuristic cars were actually one 1983 Honda Accord that they stripped down to the motor and the chassis and then physically built the new car on top of it. However, you couldn't see from the inside out. In fact, the times that they showed them inside of the car was actually a set that they built. That was not the actual car. But that means that the guys driving the cars in the scenes where it's driving like behind the muscle car that he finished, they're literally driving blind with directions given to them through a walkie-talkie.
Huh.
That's amazing.
That's fun.
Like the stunt crew went above and beyond to do whatever they could for this
Did
movie.
anybody get run over?
No.
Gosh, yeah.
No injuries on that front as far as I could tell.
That is a weird, like, imagine sitting down and having that conversation with your stunt actor, your actors, and be like, hey, so here's what we need you to do. Roll with me on this one.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're gonna tell you when to turn and how much to turn, but you gotta kind of translate that correctly.
That'd be a nightmare for you.
I would
You hate
hate
driving already,
Oh,
and
gosh,
you can see.
I would hate every moment of that. I would. That might. Yeah. If hell exists, that's it.
Blindfolded driving.
Yeah. Just
Even at
yeah.
5 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Fun little fact: in the hallway, which we talked about, was the school that they turned into all of the stuff. But in the hallway leading up to the hacker's apartment, I don't know if you noticed, but there was a jigsaw puppet graffiti on one of the walls.
Really?
And then on another wall, there was Jay Wan graffitied onto the wall because he worked he's
I
very
noticed
good
that.
friends with James Wan, who
Oh.
did the Saw movies.
Yeah.
And Fast and Furious 7.
Yeah. He
Best of the Furious franchise.
he had to get permission to use the jigsaw picture, even though it was drawn by one of their artists. And on the commentary, he's literally like, because you know who doesn't own the copyrights to Saw? Me. You know who does own the copyrights to Saw? James Wan.
Wow.
So he literally said that he called him and he made him wait a whole 4 minutes before he responded to the email.
Wow. That's incredible. Now I got to go back and watch that.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
so crazy.
I didn't see it until, like, I've seen this movie 5 or 6 times before I watched it with the commentary. And then in the commentary, he's sitting there and he's like, oh, yeah, there's Jigsaw over there. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So
That's amazing.
yeah, great little fun little bit there. So we got 2 more. This one is perhaps my favorite part of the movie, and that is the way the camera locks in on our lead character whenever, and it's obviously not the whole time. They were very particular about when they use this effect, but the very first time he's able to walk with STEM, they have that camera locked movement, and then every time during the fight scenes you have those moments too. I was very curious how they were going to do that on a $5 million budget. Apparently all they did was developed a quick little app for an iPhone to be a tracker for the digital dolly that they use.
Huh.
And they physically taped the phone to the actor's body, and it would be used so that the camera was going to move in the exact same way the phone was facing.
Wow.
Huh, that's really smart.
So literally for probably $200 to pay someone to develop the quick little app. That's how they got such an expensive, insane looking camera style. So
You've seen it everywhere. Now they use it for NFL commercials. Like
Yep.
they have like a footage of Bijan Robinson running, and it's
Yep.
only focused on him, and it's really trippy. Like it's
that's
everywhere.
all
now.
because of Upgrade.
Wow.
And that was a development of what is called a snorri cam. Very much made famous in Requiem for a Dream, which you will see eventually.
Okay.
But those shots where they basically strap the camera to the front of the actor,
Yeah.
and the actor carries the camera. That's where it kind of developed from. It started with that idea, but they took it to, in my opinion, just a whole new level with these fights. Like the way that he was literally doing a backflip, and he was still just in the middle of the frame the entire time. Like
Yeah.
the technicality part of that just, it blows my mind.
It was absolutely my favorite thing about this movie were those scenes. Like it was so nice to see something that was a differentiator, something creative, new, innovative.
Yeah.
After a slew of Crow films.
Exactly.
Talk about a film upgrade, am I right?
Yeah. Talk about it.
But yeah, he wanted specifically to use that to make you realize that that's when STEM was in charge of the body.
Okay.
And I think they did a really good job at balancing how often they used it.
That's like, that's one of those things that as you say it, I'm realizing I noticed that whenever STEM was talking about it, did have a different feel to it.
And it really showcases at the very end when STEM is fully taken over his body, every step that he makes. And I think there's maybe 2 shots where you can see him in that mode. Both of those shots fully use that effect because they wanted to get that across.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I was hoping you were going to talk about that because I was really curious.
That, as a filmmaker, just blows my mind. And then we've got one final one, just a quick one. Rendo. The director really wanted to put nature into this futuristic world. He wanted the technology to be based on nature, and that's why on a lot of the screens you'll see like honeycomb shapes. That's why there's all sorts of plants and stuff all throughout the modern houses. The Elon Musk character's house, that was a set. Their house at the very beginning, the interior of that was a set. And they did that because they knew you weren't going to be able to redress someone's house to look correct that way, or else it was going to be really expensive.
Yeah.
So they did that with the idea of having nature be a part of the design of the entire world. With the tech itself, like I said, he wanted it all also to look like it was very integrated into daily life. So like when he's looking through the guy's coffee table that has the computer in it, that's why there's shit all over it. It's because it's a functional coffee table that just happens to be able to tell you your emails.
Yeah.
So
I would love that coffee table.
that would be so nice.
That's
would be
bonkers.
so nice.
Yeah.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
I noticed the plant, especially in the we keep calling him the Elon Musk guy.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name now. Was it Aaron?
I think so.
I think it's Aaron. But yeah, I love the plantation and stuff like that. That was really cool. That was an interesting touch.
Yeah.
And also probably also lends back to the fact that this is fuck. I've had one of those every episode.
Yeah. Not last one.
It's a society in transition.
I think that's how you need to talk.
Yeah, it's a society in transition. I need to upgrade my mouth.
I was like, it sounds like STEM has already taken you over.
Yeah, mine broke. Someone poured coffee on mine.
What is funny to me is that the movie's set in America, filmed in Australia, but they did such a good job at like finding the one guy in town that had all the American cars.
Yeah.
And they used his cars in when any of the regular cars were there, so that they could make it feel like it was shot in America.
I mean, I really had no idea it was Australian film.
Well, that's because they were also very particular about like the exteriors that they shot, because they didn't want it to be kind of like tied down to one specific location.
Did either of you guys watch this feeling like this is where we are currently? Like we're on the verge?
Yeah, I think we're probably 10, 15 years away from that.
I mean, like that's kind of what made it feel like a enjoyable plotline to watch. Is like I could see this happening.
Yeah.
Like
it felt a little too real.
Yeah.
But like I said, in 2018, he was setting it 20, 30 years in the future.
Yeah.
And I think we're on track for that.
That's what great sci-fi does.
Yeah.
Like, and that's another reason I love some of those, like Total Recall, like feels like a no duh now.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like implanting memories in your mind. It's
Yeah.
like, that's nothing now.
Yeah.
It's like,
Exactly.
so
Oof.
shall we upgrade?
Let's upgrade.
Let's upgrade.
Shall we get malware?
Yes.
Oh, so it's upgraded malware. this time.
Shall we
Got
get
it.
fisky,
Love it.
fisky with each other?
I
Get
no.
it? Fisk? Fisk? Mustache? Fisk? Top bill cast. I would just say Logan Marshall Green here because even his wife was very in the background.
Well, I would also say STEM though.
Yeah. Okay.
The guy
Yeah.
who
The
played
voice.
STEM.
Well,
Yeah.
Hal. He gave me major Hal vibes, by
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
From space. From A Space Odyssey. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I would definitely say they're the two leads of the film.
And if it's yes, it's an upgrade. If it's no, it's a downgrade.
Oh, my idea. That was me.
Love it.
You own this thing.
100% upgrade. Like, yeah, especially because I would have said this even before I did all the research, but knowing the dedication he had and basically the 2 months before they even filmed of doing nothing but see, now I'm doing it. Preparing for this role.
Man, you guys need to learn how to speak.
I know.
Need an upgrade over here.
Yeah. But no, 100%. That's an upgrade. Like, he absolutely murdered it.
I agree. I would give him an upgrade. I especially with the context that you were sharing about how much work he went into it. But even before that, one thing that impressed me about his performance was when he was learning how to walk, or not so much when he was learning, when he was upgraded and he was starting to walk on his own, like that. He really sold the whole like I'm getting my limbs back.
Absolutely.
Like, and I know earlier I said I wasn't too captivated by like the plot and the dialogue between people, but like that's not to be mistaken that like I thought he did a good job acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Definitely. I thought it was interesting. So, by the way, STEM, voiced by Simon Maiden, Australian actor, was the person that voiced, did a great job. I at first, and I loved that Logan Marshall Green was getting a shot because Prometheus is one of my favorite movies. I love it. And it was nice. It was nice to see him get a shot in a lead role. I'm not going to lie, at the beginning, it felt a little dry, but then I saw there was a reason for that because he was fixing it into a world where he's an everyman.
Yeah.
In a world where every men are now looked down upon. When you said the racism element, that actually really clicked with me because I was like, I didn't necessarily call it racism, but there definitely was this superiority complex that had occurred with technology.
A form of prejudice.
And this is a guy, he's a mechanic, he's an everyman, he's a project guy, like he's hands-on in a world that's becoming more and more. And it's funny because his wife is a technologist.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I actually got it. He needed to be dry because he needed to be less sophisticated.
Yeah.
And that being said, I do give it an upgrade because I like I said, the first 10 minutes I was like, I don't know if I like him in this role. Then it made total sense.
Yeah.
I saw why he needed to play it that way. I thought the voice of STEM was great because it actually, I would put it up there. I'm not going to say it's as good as Hal from 2001.
Yeah.
But it definitely like was good enough to give me the vibes of Hal, like turning on humanity. And
it's definitely memorable. The Leigh was talking about how the direction that he gave him was, well, he wanted it to be robotic. And again, this is even before like ChatGPT had voice capabilities, but he wanted it to feel like a person that was also a robot.
Yeah.
So that kind of transitional period where we have that uncanny valley. Yes, it sounds like a real person, but it's still the stilted cadence of a
modulated.
Yeah.
Well, it was the character of Sim was interesting because at the beginning you feel like he's like trying to dialogue with the lead character, like he's like reasoning with him or trying to talk him into stuff.
Yeah.
But then kind of towards the end you realize it's like AI that understands how humans work so well.
Exactly.
That it's like a formula. He knows how, just like he knew how to work the karate moves at the right time and predict where people were at. You know, humans were an algorithm too that he had at that point understood. So he was getting to where he needed to get on a person. It's a weird because at first you're like, oh, at first you're like, oh, it's like a nice robot.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And then I honestly like midway into the movie, I was like, this robot's not.
Yeah. Well, the moment he explains to him that going through that reboot period is what basically untethered him, that's when you're like, oh shit, something.
As soon as he was like, we need to get me untethered, I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say that I think it takes a lot for when you just have a voice, because it's different, right? Like, it's not like voice acting for an animated film. Like, this is a live-action movie with real people and everything, but you have to be a voice that somehow expresses emotion. I'm so convinced that he's a friendly piece of technology at the beginning. Like, I love how he interacts with Gray. Like, I love their conversations. I think it's really funny. And I actually am kind of like blown away by how 80s-esque it is, because that's very Arnold. Like, he was, even in like the most violent portions of Predator, he could find a way to be funny.
Yeah.
You know, and that definitely was a callback. And so I thought they nailed it. And then like he did it so well that I never actually, I'm pretty good at seeing like the end. Like I think
twist coming.
Yeah.
he convinced me so well that he was his friend that I never saw the betrayal coming.
Yeah.
And then I felt like an idiot. And then when he turned.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And to do all that with a voice like Simon, I don't see any like notable credits to the actor, but he deserves a lot of credit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point.
For that. So, all right, we've got an upgrade so far, 1-0. All right, support and cast, and this is going to be kind of hard to jump around on, but I'll start with Benedict Hardy, who played Fisk, the Mustache Man. Tolan, played by Christopher Kirby, the guy that got his face knifed, which was wild. And our Elon Musk guy, Aaron Keane, played by Harrison Sloan Gilbertson. I'll toss the wife in here. She doesn't even have a picture in IMDb.
Yeah,
wow.
That's a bummer.
Melanie Vallejo. She had a nice face.
Yeah.
She had a face.
Yeah. More than STEM.
And then Cirque, one of the henchman type guys, Richard Cawthorne.
Yeah. I do give them all an upgrade, which I'm sensing you're probably not, but let me tell you why I probably sort of agree with you. I could be completely off base here, but I think it leads into what we were talking about with the first Crow movie. These are not guys that you're supposed to know their background to. You're not supposed to feel sorry for them. In fact, you're probably kind of just supposed to be like, you piece of shit, you killed my wife, I want to go fuck you up.
Yeah.
They did their job in that way. I can definitely see how there could have been more depth to the characters themselves, whether we saw the development of that depth. But I'm also remembering they probably rehearsed for a week before they shot the movie. It's not one of these things where you have like 2-3 months to rehearse and really get to have the ability to write a 50-page character outline like Johnny Depp did for Jack Sparrow.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see how, just because of the nature of indie movies, they probably could have done more with the characters just if they had done more homework. Not even better homework, but just more homework. But I still give them an upgrade because I feel like for everything that was going on with the production of this movie, they absolutely stepped up to the task.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna give like a similar answer. The story wasn't captivating to me, where like I was bored for most of the movie. But I know, I'm sorry, but I do feel like the actors did their job.
Yeah.
You know, like the henchman villain with the is kind of equal. That was an interesting character. That was interesting to see. The wife was, for the short time that she was in the film, she made us care about her. But like as I was watching it, I was like, I know you're gonna die. Like I know this is where this is going. Like so it was very cookie cutter to me. But I was like, but you are making me like you. The Elon Musk character, I thought maybe he was just because I for most of the movie thought he was gonna be the villain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what they set you up to believe, and like he did a good job of giving us some convincing, reasons. So no, I'll give them an upgrade. I mean, who cares?
It's a
But,
begrudging
They were
upgrade.
fine, but like it wasn't their fault.
Yeah.
They're downgrading Seth's emotions right now.
I'm so sorry.
His zeitgeist around this film.
Listen, I hope I can one day find a woman that loves me the way you love this movie. When I listened to you talk about this at the beginning of this podcast, I was like, I wish I loved anything this much. Like, this is a nice, good.
Yeah, it is a nice relationship you guys have.
Yeah.
It is better than saying you enjoy Wicked Prayer.
Yeah, I love that that's the thing now. That's like the thing
Yeah.
in this. We're just gonna keep referencing back.
Listen, I enjoyed our time crapping on Wicked Prayer. That's a fun movie to crap on.
The
Like,
memories.
absolutely.
I bet you if we got the cast of Wicked Prayer on here, they would crap on it just as much.
I think they pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Dennis Hopper snorted his way out of
yeah,
remembering it doesn't
I think
exist.
they try not to. Yeah.
Well, I actually did go downgrade, Seth. I'm sorry, and it's all because of Fisk.
But he played his character the way that it was supposed to be played, did he not?
But
You just don't like a mustache?
I don't like the character design in terms not just his look, but and some of the stuff you did shed some light. Like he seemed more like a disgruntled IT guy
Nice.
than anything.
Yeah.
But I just felt like I needed more from my foe, because if I really am going to take, and this is completely on my own mentality, if I really am going to say this is maybe helping me revive a genre I once loved, which even, because even some of the later Alien films, the RoboCop reboot, they didn't capture what made those older ones great to me. So I'm like, if this is going to be it and it's getting there, This foe doesn't really hit any of those things for me. And it's just not a foe because for me, I have to equally love the foe as much. In some cases, love the foe more.
Yeah.
And I can't wrap my mind around him. He's maybe sadistic, but maybe he's just a hired gun. Maybe he's like really evil, but I can't really tell if he's just really a mercenary. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need much more backstory, but I just needed something to say, this is a formidable foe.
But see, he wasn't like the real foe.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He was
He
like
was a hired
side
hand
foe.
to the
He was
hired
like a
hand.
mini boss. He was not even a mini boss because you could argue Elon Musk was the mini boss.
Yeah.
He was the
I didn't like him either.
henchman to the
He was,
I thought that last scene really solidified just like the
Yeah.
type of character he was. You think he's this emotionless, like feelingless person, and then you find out he's literally just has a gun pointed to his head the entire time you know him.
I didn't like the way he played it though. I thought he was like a bad caricature of what you would think a technologist.
Yeah.
We see what our technologists act like. I mean,
Yeah.
and, you know, and even the ones that are making the robots and stuff are surfers and shit. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like Mark Zuckerberg's doing
Yeah.
jujitsu now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt like he also at times was dressed like a Bond villain.
Yeah.
And so
He
between
gave me Draco Malfoy vibes completely.
yeah, between the Bond outfit and the slightly like, I just was like, this is like a bad characterization of what a technologist would, an evil technologist would do. Now, I'm sorry, I feel bad, but it doesn't matter.
I mean, you still lost.
I
so.
still lost, but take that upgrade. No, said my piece, but the fucking mustache, Fisk, getting fisky with it. All right, it's 2-0. We're heading towards an upgrade potentially here. Writing. So Leigh Whannell, who also wrote Insidious 3, by the way, Invisible Man is the director. Wrote Saw 1 through 3.
Yep.
Right. A lot of crazy
Starred in
credits.
Saw 1. Also wrote the short film that started the whole Saw thing.
Yeah. This guy's got a few credits.
Yeah, I think he met James Wan in film school. Like that's when they got together.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'll jump first on this
Yeah,
one
we'll start with you.
because and it's not a testament to all the movies that he's been, but like if I'm just going to talk about this movie specifically, the writing I'll give a downgrade. Like
Okay.
it just I was bored. Like not to say that it was bad, but it wasn't like I know it's a good movie or a fun movie to watch if the next day in a conversation with a friend I'm like, you should check out this movie. And when it was like with a friend, I was like, I saw a movie last night.
You just hate everything good.
I've been told that numerous times. So
This is gonna shock you. I too am going to give the writing a downgrade.
Yes!
Because here's why. I do consider the writing to be different from the story. I think the story is fantastic and was told in a very fantastic way. I don't think the point of the movie was the dialogue though. Like you're not through the dialogue, you're not supposed to give a shit. You're just supposed to watch the story unfold. But if we're going strictly off the physical words that we heard on screen, yes, there's nothing special about it. So yes, I am too going to give it a downgrade.
can I poke at one of the things you said there?
Tell me.
Poke hard.
So well, now I feel awkward using the term poke.
Do it,
but,
Daddy.
Poke harder.
So you said the point of the dialogue wasn't a huge focus. The main villain was only dialogue.
Yeah.
So I feel like good dialogue for an integral part of the plot.
Did you have an issue with his dialogue?
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. The overall writing, I don't think it was anything incredible. I don't think it was bad in any way, but I don't think it was anything that we're just like sitting, because like we said, we can't really sit here and quote a specific part of the movie, but
That's a problem.
that's the thing is like, sure, the majority of the dialogue was nothing special, but it also wasn't bad. And I think when you
That's a good
have
point. Okay.
like Stem's dialogue with our lead character Gray, I think those moments were fantastically done. And I think because they literally had him on set doing his lines to the lead actor. But
That makes sense.
I'm a rational enough person to understand that just because this part of it is fantastic doesn't mean that it's all above a 6 or a 6.5.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually went downgrade here too, and here's the thing: I actually loved the interaction between Stem and Gray. I thought that was
That
the
part was cool.
highlight.
Yeah.
It was fun. Sometimes it was humorous, and that's where the only real source of humor came from in this movie was their interactions. But outside of that, I thought the interaction with the wife were kind of mailed in. I thought the dialogue between them wasn't very well written. It was a little just kind of basic.
Yeah.
None of the characters were written enough to give me just enough to say that's who that person really is.
Yeah.
That goes for Fisk, that goes for Gray, and that goes especially for Aaron.
Yeah.
Everyone is just, again, you're right. Like, dialogue isn't necessarily, because what I'm seeing visually is very compelling.
Yes.
But I just think, and it's not even much more, I just needed something said a different way, or something a little more humorous, just something to kind of to link me to these characters.
No,
and
I
I'm just not
completely
getting
agree
any
with
of it.
Maybe the issue with the writing that we're all kind of identifying here is we got something and we thought it could lead to something more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, it's like when, I know I reference comedy a lot, but as comedians, it seems like a good central point for us.
Reference banking instead, please.
Yes.
It's like when you hear a new routine from someone and you're like, that's good, but I was expecting a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
So
cool.
I think we're all in agreement there.
Boom.
Was not bad, could have been better.
Way to fall on the sword for your own movie,
There we
man.
go.
That's
Look,
hard to do.
I am a rational person and am willing to criticize the things that need to be criticized, okay? Unless we're talking about Lord of the Rings. That movie's flawless. And if you say anything negative, I will knife you in your sleep.
We'll have to put your mic in a different room for that one. I don't want to get stabbed.
You just hear me in the background.
I like how you said mic and not. Oh, did you say knife? Because I thought you said we'll have to put your mic in a different room. I was like, no, let's leave a mic with it. Let's put the knife somewhere.
We'll have to put a shotgun in a different room. All right, it's 2-1. We're trending towards an upgrade, but starting to get malware here.
Yeah.
So we're getting. Like I've always said, if life is a simulation, someone poured coffee on the server that my consciousness is hosted on, and I feel like
I've never heard you say that.
Ever.
And
I
love
say it every day.
I love it.
You just don't listen to me anymore.
I'm
You've
sorry.
changed.
What?
You know that we're not in the mirror when you say shit like that, right?
If only you knew how real that is. It's like the last podcast. Remember when I got real mad and said something aggressive, and you said the funniest thing ever on this podcast? You said, that was really angry at nobody. What was that? Shit for brains.
Yeah, I remember that.
I laugh every time. So good. Directing. And again, Leigh Whannell, he wrote and directed here. Again, Saw, Insidious, Invisible Man.
I have to give it an upgrade. I think, again, for taking a plot structure that is in some ways overdone. We had 2 John Wick movies before that one came out. I think he took it in such a direction that was new and refreshing and made me enjoy the revenge genre again.
Yeah.
So I give it an upgrade.
Love that.
Well, with consideration of everything that you said at the beginning of this podcast, I'll give him an upgrade. Sounds like he did a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there was a lot of good things in putting it together.
Yeah.
So
He even went to the point that all those glow sticks that were on the ground in the hacker's place, not only did they have a purpose, they were there so that when the addicts and the hacker were trying to figure out where a disconnect might be in a cable, those were on the floor so they could see all the cabling. But he hand placed every single one of those glow sticks.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like, that's the level of dedication he had to getting it right. With
everybody loves a micromanager. I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone on staff with him for that was just like,
Especially
That's the
with,
thing.
thank God he's here.
He's not a micromanager. He just knows when he has a particular vision and he's going to do it. Otherwise, it seems like he was so great at delegating to everybody else. But it's
Yeah.
like every now and then he'd have something he's like, no.
Meanwhile, he's calling the lead actor, text me every day.
Yeah.
yeah.
Your movements.
No,
so that
he
I
took it
can-
upon himself to do that. Lee didn't even ask him to send him these updates. They were going to work on it in rehearsal. But the
Wow.
whole month, he took it upon himself to be like, so this is what I've been working on this week.
That's awesome.
All I'm saying is the only thing that could have made this movie worse is if Jared Leto started in it.
Oh, God.
We're not even.
Once you find a thing, you just
We're not
scratch at
even.
it.
We're
I
not
hope
even.
I hope he's in the next Fast and Furious just for his just for his.
I wanted to take a gigantic
You know,
shit.
you
on
know.
Vin
The truth
Diesel's
is
car.
that wouldn't bother you as much because they already put Pete Davis in the last one.
Oh
and
my
if there was like
God.
one person that I was like, could you please never be in anything I like?
Yeah, seriously. Like, please don't ever do like a Doritos
No, bro, I
commercial.
gotta ruin everything you fucking love, okay?
Yeah, some people ruin everything. I go upgrade here too, and maybe for all the faults and because he wrote and directed, maybe the dialogue isn't as great because he spent a lot of time making something very visually compelling.
Yeah.
He could have written
Yeah.
better if he wasn't putting on the glow sticks.
Yeah.
He had asked an intern to do that.
You know, like I said earlier, when I saw the first time the cyberkinetic looking filming happening where it's locked in on his head and body, I was like, so refreshed because I was seeing something just different that hadn't been done.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated it. And for all the lack of dialogue, it really is a fantastic visual thing to watch. And I think Leigh Whannell shows a lot of not just gravitas here, but potential to continue doing things. Like I it was one of those things where I watched it and I said I can't wait to see what he does next.
Yeah,
Because I think this guy could really,
like as Seth was saying, he chose to do a movie with a lower budget, but now I kind of want to see him do a movie with a big budget to see what.
Or a lower budget than this.
Yeah.
Let's just see how great.
What else can you pull out of your ass?
I got $30 in my wallet.
Yeah, well,
Go for it.
I mean, what's funny is when Eggers got the big budget, that was the first time he got criticized. Really, was The Northman, and I liked it. But
The Northman was amazing.
Yeah, but a lot of people hated it, and it was a $70 million.
I know
budget.
why. I know why. They were expecting John Wick with axes and got the story that inspired Hamlet.
Yeah, or they got The Lighthouse with Vikings.
Yeah.
Basically, they got Wilhelm Dafoe doing ayahuasca dances. But yeah, I think in going back to your budget comment, that's the job of a director. Is they are, besides setting the vision and guiding the film and being the captain, they get a certain amount of resources that the producers procure, and it is their job to then do what they can. And I just think he gave us a visual feast here, and something that's memorable. He innovated. He didn't have to do the camera work like he could. We just could have gotten straightforward fight scenes. Yeah. But he gave us something that I will always associate with this movie because I know I'm going to see it elsewhere.
Oh yeah.
So I wish I could give him a double upgrade here because I thought fantastic.
Yeah, 100%.
Hell yeah, 3-1 here. Here we go. We're closing in on an upgrade. What's in front of us? So this is the cinematography, the production, design, sound, costumes, how it looks.
Start with you.
I'll give it an upgrade. I mean, I wasn't moved. Although, listen, you talk about the cinematography. It's like I know I'm looking at something good. Costume, looks, whatever. Like it was fine, but I do think I'll give it an upgrade because I can't think of. The reason is because I can't. I'm a medium, but I know that's not an option, and I'm not gonna shit on something else unless I have to take a dump. So I'm gonna give it an upgrade.
I give it an upgrade, if only for the innovation in the camera work for those fight scenes. However, now having gone through the whole thing that he did in the commentary, talking about which places were sets and which places were real, like the big rock that was over the entrance to his house, that was out on location in the middle of like a suburb in Melbourne. They dug a 4-foot hole down, and when they walked down those stairs, that was literally just them doing the duck and cover thing to look like they're going down the stairs. But then it cuts to a stairwell at the film school that they went to, that apparently has been used in a ton of Australian films. But then at the bottom of the stairwell, they end up in a set, and it all seamlessly just flows as if they are literally in the one spot. I really love the dome that's in that room that has some of the panels are like have the holographic images on them and can do the x-rays and stuff. Down to literally like he has a table that's hanging from the ceiling that's just like an oak like a tree trunk basically. So much thought was put into everything, down to, like I said, the glow sticks on the ground in that hallway and turning a room in a school into a biker bar. Like, 100% it's an upgrade for me.
And that kind of goes, maybe having such a low budget ended up being a good thing for them because he had to really be intentional about every single thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm really split on this one because one of the thoughts I had early on, well, first of all, I'll talk about what I liked. One thing I liked is I keep talking about the society in transition that they're showing us, this between human and technology. That's something that Verhoeven's Total Recall did really well. Like you're seeing like self-driving cabs, there's technologies, but they're still like physically jackhammering, and there's still stuff that humans are doing, so they're in between. And I always thought Total Recall and RoboCop too did that very well. And I'm getting some of that here too, where I'm seeing a lot of that I like. But there are some things that I feel like confuse me a little bit, like when we first meet Fisk, when we see him actually paralyze Gray and kill his wife, like that level of dystopia we see there with the turned over cars and the tents, like we really don't ever see that again anywhere else. And so I'm kind of left wondering is like, well, what is, I know it's low budget.
I kind of disagree with that actually.
Yeah.
Because when he goes into the biker bar and then comes out of it, he's in a very dilapidated place.
That's
There's
true.
that other guy in the other wheelchair where which is one of my favorite parts, where he
Mm-hmm.
just stands there. He's like, "Keep an eye on it, buddy." He's like, "Faker," and then he gets up and gets to the other one.
Yeah.
Like, I love that.
That
You
was
see
good.
that. You see it in the VR addicts place, where
Mm-hmm.
they're all in this also weirdly dystopian, still sort of familiar, but still very dystopian looking place where they're basically like heroin addicts
Yeah.
in a drug den.
That is true. I
So-
forgot. That was very impactful.
Yeah,
that part.
so
Yeah.
I personally would disagree with that. I see it all over the place.
Okay.
It's just only when it's necessary.
Yeah, I like that.
Could be the setting for like a sixth Crow movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if he had not gotten a machine but gotten resurrected by a mecha crow.
I
Yeah.
mean, this was almost the Crow 6 Mecha Crow.
Instead
or
of a
Crow
crow,
5,
it
I
was a
guess.
stem.
Yeah.
I'm not calling 2024 a reboot. It was the fifth movie, and
Yeah.
There
this
you
would
go.
be the sixth one.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to give it an upgrade. The only other thing I didn't like was that damn polo. That Fiskor. I just can't get a read on this guy. He's got a shotgun in his arm, but he's got a polo on. He's got the utility belt. Like, who is this guy?
Some of us
just-
know fashion.
I
He
know.
had
It's
just
so
come
weird.
from church, and that's like his fancy clothing. But then he's like, "Oh, I gotta go potentially kill a guy. Let me go get my ammo." And
Yeah,
he was just
He was just kind of written and looked like a pissed off IT guy to me.
yeah.
But it wasn't enough to go downgrade. I do go upgrade. Again, these are things that are easy to criticize and post. Really, I was immersed in this world
Yeah.
when I was watching it, and that's what it's about, is being immersed. So I give it an upgrade.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So it is 4-1 here. We're almost done here. How good are these bad guys, huh?
I like that.
I like that I can repurpose that
Yeah.
one.
Here's my problem, and I'm actually fully split on this because I agree with you both. The general bad guy is underdeveloped, but the twist of having STEM as the actual bad guy at the very end is the one thing that sets it over into upgrade for me. And if like 5 is like dead middle, you have no clue. This is like a 5.5. So I think that twist of having the guy you think is your friend the whole time and the complete misdirection of these are the bad guys, but they're not actually the bad guys, I got to give it just barely an upgrade.
I think I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but I think I'm gonna give it a downgrade.
Yeah.
I think the villains were fine, but not like, wow, that was amazing. And the thing that captivated me was that STEM won at the end.
Yeah.
But that was within just the last few moments of the film. Up until then, we'd seen this story before. We have seen more villainous.
We saw it 5 times.
Yeah, we've seen more villainous cybernetic things do it better and bigger and more villainously. So like because, and I've said this a couple times, this is an okay movie, but it did kind of give me a little bit of a boring factor. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it a downgrade.
We're all allowed to be wrong at
because
some point.
yeah, that's fair. Because even though the twist was really good, that actually goes to the story and not so much the characters.
Yeah, and I get that. For me,
Right.
having STEM transition at the end and then you
Yeah.
watch it again, you start to pick up on the little moments where he is being insanely villainous throughout the movie.
I just feel like if I loved the twist and I would have been okay with the ending being exactly how it was. I would have loved to see more more emotional fighting but where he like once he was like put up in the back burner where like he was just in his brain with his wife, in the like it was done. It was over. It was which kind of, it does kind of fit because in all of the fights there was never really a fight. He just dominated because he knew algorithms well. But like me as a viewer, I was like, I would have wanted to see more struggle with the good guy.
Yeah.
I mean, there was that struggle though, because he literally is like saving himself from shooting her until he's finally forced to, and then forces himself to shoot himself in the neck. Like there was, I don't know, I disagree. I think there was a huge struggle to that point.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
to each their own.
I hate to go downgrade here, but I understand.
It's already a full upgrade, so we're good.
It already won. It already won.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we only have one category left, but I do think I just love this category. I was like, this would be a great way to use that category.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a pool of categories, and I can just
Yeah, it's a good one though.
What I loved was STEM.
Yeah.
Everything involving STEM, when we don't know he's a bad guy and he's having amazing conversations, and I love the interplay. Was like, can I do my thing now? He's like, please. I love that.
Yeah.
I love the twist, and like you hear it in the voice. The actor portrayed that betrayal very
Yeah.
well. I still think, and I know what you're saying. You said, I think was one of you said that Stem ended up being the bad guy, not Fisk. Fisk was just a mercenary. I still think, and it's unfair to compare anything to RoboCop because it's my favorite movie of all time. But there is in this world, if we're going to talk about this kind of pop sci-fi type of genre, there is an idea of the middle bosses, and I think back to Dick Jones was the bad guy in RoboCop, but in between him was Clarence, played by Kurt Smallwood. And then, RoboCop had to get through them, and each of them have their own personalities and are soaking. And in a lot of ways, Clarence was more crazy and memorable than Dick Jones.
Yeah.
So I do think you can still have this main bad guy and add some flavor. I'm not even asking for a lot more, but I just think.
But you're telling me he's not memorable?
Just annoying.
The first thing you said about the movie was him.
His mustache. Yeah, but I don't remember it for good reasons.
Hey, he's still a villain, and you're still talking about him.
I know, but I look fondly on Clarence, whereas I don't look. Fisk is not. I just wish I had a bad guy I could add to the repository of great sci-fi bad guys here.
Would you not consider the guy who was like the Elon Musk type? Would he not be the middle villain in this?
That's even worse to me. He's even worse. He's the worst part of this movie.
He's almost a victim, though. Because
he
is at the point where he doesn't want to do these things. He is just being forced to.
Yeah.
So but as you're watching the story, you don't know that.
He's dressed.
He's
dressed
think
like
he's gonna be the villain, but he's not.
He's dressed like Bond. He talks like an emo kid. I don't. I'm supposed to be convinced he's some kind of.
I'm not saying he was captivating.
But let's be real though. The fucking Gen Z broccoli heads of today are going to be the tech billionaires of next 2 decades. Like, he kind of nailed it. He kind of nailed what that generation of billionaires is going to look like.
It is true. That's a good point.
So,
well,
their own.
We have one category left. Maybe you can win even harder here. So I got a little creative with this category because I was trying to think of a way to reflect this idea of, what we were talking about earlier is that this is one of my favorite genres, what I call pop sci-fi. Most people call it either action sci-fi or horror sci-fi is kind of where it lives. The Terminator, RoboCop, Predator, Alien, or Aliens, not Alien, but Aliens in that world. And I felt like I was watching a bit of a revival here. It doesn't necessarily hit all the things well. So I called this category a respawn.
Yeah.
Or do you think that this is a movie that gives you hope that, say, either this director or there is a place where we can kind of revive that genre? Because even the remakes and reboots and sequels of those movies I just mentioned lose the plot. Like once Verhoeven was no longer on RoboCop, it lost everything that made it so unique. Predator, all the new Predator movies, absolutely just not even capturing what made the original unique. And maybe it was just the time period, but what do you think? Do you think this gives you hope that we can see a new, onslaught of these films? Because I want it. That's why I made this category. I want those movies.
No, I'll give it an upgrade. I could see that. I mean, this definitely did have like that 80s movie, action movie vibe to it. Like and that's kind of what was fun. That was kind of the fun nostalgic value that it kind of added to it. Like that would like make me feel like it's like it, because it kind of reminded me of those kind of movies. I wasn't expecting it to just have like an enthralling, like, wow, everything about this movie just blew me away. So that's why I would put it, even though I'd say average, I'd put it like on the good end of average. Like as in, for example, when I was with the people I was staying with this weekend when I was traveling, I was telling them what the movies we were reviewing, and he looked up Upgrade on Netflix. He's like, oh, this one, and because he was watching the trailer because he had never heard of it. And for a second, I thought he was gonna like, let's go ahead and watch it. And my reaction was like, yeah, I could watch it again.
Yeah.
Whereas like there'd be other movies where like I'm gonna watch it, and I was like, I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah.
So
hashtag City of Angels.
Yeah. I almost said the same exact.
Yep. 100%.
I too give it an upgrade. If it had come out today, I would be more hopeful. But as you've said, in the 6 years since it came out, we've seen people try and not really hit the same kind of quality level of bringing the genre back. But I think it did spark something that people wanted to try to tap back into that style of filmmaking. So yeah, I definitely think it has an upgrade there.
Totally. And now I give it an upgrade too. I mean, and even though I've been critical of some elements of it, at the end of the day, like it did tap into that thing and I was instantly pulled in, and it made me reflect on my love of Philip K. Dick and all the works that have been based on his writings, whether it's his books or his short stories. This whole idea of the negative aspect of technology and the darkness that it can cast on humanity when we depend on it too much. That is like really the core of Philip K. Dick's writing, which is why Minority Report, Total Recall, so many of his other Scanner Darkly, another one. So many great, even though that the film sucked of that. But so many movies. It's just an interesting concept, and now we're living this.
Yeah.
This movie I was watching is like, not only does it tap that vein. Whereas, like, when Total Recall came out or RoboCop, that all felt like a very far cry.
Yeah.
Now I'm watching this, I'm like, we're closer.
Yeah. I feel like there's a really smart scientist or someone watching this and be like, we could actually do that. Like,
or damn it, they spoiled our marketing plans.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting to me is because this ended with like worst case scenario for the story, like that he lost,
Yeah.
I wonder if that was a creative storytelling style, because like so many times like we'll watch like movies like Terminator, and so as we look at all the AI increasing in the world and all the bad things that could potentially happen, people always reference like, have you not seen Terminator?
Yeah.
Have you not heard of Skynet?
Yeah.
And like maybe that was intentional to end this movie in the way that they ended it, because instead of having all these awesome action movies where the good guys win at the end, that also are showing kind of some potential evils of technology. They're like, no, let's show you what could happen if we let this keep going.
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree with that.
We have people wearing Neuralink now.
Yeah.
Elon Musk Neuralink.
Yeah,
the thing
there's a couple of them.
Yeah, I mean, this, not that it's as powerful as STEM, but it's out there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, this is just the first generation of it. Like,
Yeah.
and the way technology evolves, I guarantee you in the next 5 years, the people who have it are going to be curing basically miracles at this point.
Yeah. The real fear for me about everything around technology isn't the fact that we can create technology that does it. It's the ego behind man, where we're like, yeah, but I could outsmart it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not afraid to so we don't put boundaries on things, because we're always like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But like in all these movies, you always got the Gen Z Elon Musk blonde kid. He's like, I'll figure it out. And technology is like, no, you won't.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just waiting for ChatGPT to insult me someday.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah,
idiot, you still don't know this?
Right.
Told you 1,000 times.
You can't spell for shit. Well, hey, 5-2. We gave ourselves, we gave upgrade and upgrade.
Gave
here.
an
It's
upgrade.
affirmative. This
I
is
think that's a solid representation of the film. No, 100%.
Yeah.
I was like, thanks for recommending it.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
And let's give it up for Seth.
Yeah.
The
good
first
job, Seth.
person never not named Kyle to captain a Movie Wars episode. I still feel very weird, but you did an amazing job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I look forward to doing it again.
Come back next week for Seth's next podcast episode, guys.
Awesome. Well, we just got upgraded. That was a fantastic podcast. Oh God, I sound so stupid right now. I'm gonna cut that. New ending. New ending.
Live your life a quarter mile at a time. Have a great week. Nope, that's wrong.
This was fun, man. I was so glad, and I hope to see more from this director here. But thank you so much for tuning in. We love y'all, Kyle.
Oh, I'm Seth.
We love Kyle too. Yeah, he's
I love
fine.
Kyle. I'm Kyle.
I'm
Peace.
Seth.
You guys have a great week or life, or see the next time I see you.
We
True.
suck at ending podcasts. It's okay though. Love y'all.
Love you.
Movie Wars.